You're in a jungle, radio in one hand, a language in your mouth your own government once beat out of you. Now, they call it a code that might save hundreds of American lives, even the ones who would never let you eat at their table. You whisper a word, turtle. Somewhere a tank gets blown, sky high, the battle tips, and you reload and wonder if your grandmother, who got punished for that same word, would be proud. You stormed Normandy. You helped raise the flag at Iwo Jima. But when you came home, you couldn't vote, couldn't order a drink, couldn't even speak the language that saved a battalion. You fought for a country that tried to erase you, and then acted like you were never even there. If you have ever carried the weight while someone else took the spotlight, let me know in the comments. You're not alone. You were a Comanche kid, or Navajo, or Hopi. Didn't matter. They didn't care to learn the difference. You spoke a language your teachers hated, got slapped for using it, told to forget your ways, your stories, your ancestors. Then came Pearl Harbor. Then came the draft. And suddenly that same language, a national asset, they called it unbreakable. You called it home. Your family was scraping by. $500 a year, maybe. No running water. No electricity. The government had taken your land, then told you it was your duty to defend theirs. And you did, because you were a warrior, because your grandfather fought at Little Bighorn, because your people never backed down from a fight, even when the odds were poison. So you volunteered. You, your cousins, your brothers. In some tribes, 70% of eligible men signed up. That was the highest enlistment rate in the country. Think about that. The most loyal were the ones America tried hardest to erase. They didn't segregate you. You weren't colored. You were just expendable. You fought beside white soldiers, which meant you bled beside them too. They called you scouts, snipers, point men. Translation, they sent you in first. You didn't complain. You had steady aim. You could track movement. You knew how to survive. But the myth grew louder than the man. They didn't see your skill. They saw a stereotype, a noble savage with a gun. That myth got a lot of your friends killed. And when things got chaotic, when the fog rolled in and bullets flew, your face, your skin, your language made you a target. From your own side, you got mistaken for the enemy. Some of your brothers got shot by their own units. Others were nearly stabbed by military police. You had to carry papers or be escorted just to prove you weren't the enemy. The irony, you were treated like a foreign spy for using the language you were born with to protect the very people aiming rifles at your back. You weren't just a soldier. You were a signal, a human encryption machine. 14 Comanche code talkers landed on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. They used words like pregnant bird for bomber, crazy white man for Hitler. They directed troops, called in airstrikes, rerouted entire units in real time. Your language made American victory possible. The Axis never cracked it, not once. But when it was over, no parade, no press. They made you swear to keep it secret, not to tell your wife, not your children, not even other veterans. You carried that silence like a second war. It wasn't until 1968, 23 years after the last bullet flew, that the Code Talker program was declassified. That's how long it took for America to admit you saved them. You came home to dust. No job, no housing, no ballot in your hand. In Arizona and New Mexico, you still couldn't vote. You could carry a rifle across France, but couldn't cast a ballot at home. You could storm the beach at Normandy, but not order a beer in a white-only bar. And then, they tried to end your tribe altogether. They pointed to your medals, your record, your loyalty. And they said, see, you don't need reservations anymore. You don't need treaties. You don't need sovereignty. It was called the Termination Era, a policy that tried to dissolve tribal nations, erase you legally, take your land. Again, you fought for freedom overseas, and they tried to steal your identity back home. You saved lives with a language they tried to scrub from your mouth. You helped plant the flag at Iwo Jima, then got followed around your own town like a criminal. You fought for democracy but were barred from voting, from drinking, from dignity. You did everything they asked and still had to prove you were American enough to matter. Your story wasn't told in textbooks. Your name wasn't carved in marble. You went home quietly, buried your uniform, and picked up a shovel. Maybe you taught school or became a welder. Maybe you drank too much or slept too little. Some of you didn't make it, some did, and told your stories in whispers. The museums came later, the medals came later, the recognition came later.
Congratulations.
Too late for most. The president called you a warrior. Congress gave you a medal. But the VA, the Department of Veterans Affairs, forgot your name. The schools still banned your language, and the government tried to kill your tribe after you risked your life to save theirs. They told you that you defeated fascism, but you still had to carry ID to prove you weren't the enemy. You were good enough to fight Hitler, just not to share a water fountain. So yeah, next time someone says, you should be grateful, remember this. Remember the men who stormed the beaches, spoke in code, saved lives, and came home to silence. If this story hit you, hit the like button and subscribe if you believe history should remember the right people.